Well, the crisis over Syria is casting a long shadow over the markets today. A senior U.S. defense official telling Fox News that a U.S. strike on Syria is, quote, not a matter of if, but when. Joining us now to tell us what the Obama administration may be planning, retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer. And for the market angle, we are joined by Greenhaven Group President Ashmead Pringle. Gentlemen, welcome to both of you. And Tony, it's good to see you. I want to start with you on this one.
Sure.
Well, we keep hearing this term, there will be no boots on the ground. So, Tony, will a missile strike be effective in stopping the humanitarian crisis that's happening in Syria?
No, I unfortunately don't believe so. I think this will just antagonize the situation and not move anything forward in a positive way. And I think both business-wise as well as economically, we're looking at using resources we really don't need to use by the fact that I don't think we understand what the secondary and third-order consequences will be. Let me be very clear on this. The Russians have a base there. Some of the weapons of mass destruction may well be hid on that base. We don't want to tangle with the Russians. And more importantly, we don't understand if Assad doesn't get the message, what do we do next? We have a tired military. It's an effective military, but tired. We cannot afford to put boots on the ground, as you point out. So I don't think we're really looking at this as a chess game. We're almost reacting, which is really not a good thing for us to do.
Okay, I want to get back to you on strategy in just a moment, but I do want to go over to Ashmead and bring up something that Tony just mentioned. That is the situation with Russia. From a monetary currency perspective here, the ruble today hitting a 4-month low. Normally when you see oil prices going up, the Russian ruble would jump higher. Is that a direct correlation to the concerns about Russia's stake in all of this? Not just the fact that this could be a real kick in the armor for our relations with Russia, but also the fact they continue to back the Assad regime.
Well, Cheryl, I think the market's very nervous about the situation, obviously, and the Russians and a number of folks in the region are in the business of propping up oil prices. They're generally oil sellers, so a certain amount of commotion and risk premium is certainly in their interest.
But the ruble isn't reacting to that, which I think is interesting. I'm wondering if the currency traders out there are saying this is not a good thing for the Russians. Certainly you can say that from a political perspective, but it looks like it's a money perspective now.
Well, it could be. At Greenhaven, we're commodity-focused folks, and crude oil is one of the commodities we own. We don't own currencies, so I can't give you too much insight there. But I do think one thing to look at here is that the technicals, this market's already seen in crude a jump in the risk premium. The backwardation's increased $15 in the front and gone down $4 in the back. So we've already had a big move. And today, I think it's significant that we touched the recent nearby high of 109.32, but we didn't penetrate it. Now, the government could, I think our government could, as they did in June, release some barrels from the reserve, and that sent prices down a good bit the last time. And they could do it in a way via a payment-in-kind auction that would actually rebuild the reserve over time.
Okay, Ashmead, certainly I don't mean to put you on the spot about the currency side of it, but when it comes to the oil reaction, especially that spread on the Brent contract, it's been fascinating to watch. Tony, I want to go over to you with something that I think would affects both of us, affects all market participants, and that's the timing of all of this. We've got to have NATO behind us. We've got to be lockstep with NATO. If we do have a coordinated response to Syria, and they can do specific missile strikes that again don't hurt, don't arguably anger the Assad regime to go after the Israelis, which we certainly don't want. Is that possible from a military perspective, Tony?
I don't believe so. And as you point out, the commodities market's going to go crazy here because there are ports in jeopardy right now regarding where oil is, put on ships. So I think that's something we have to be very cognizant of. The Assad regime may well purposely go about doing some things to upset things economically. Let's talk about the costs regarding military action. The British may be with us. We may even get some other folks with us right now regarding NATO. Turkey's there. Turkey's a member of NATO. That's the only legal way I see us going forward on this, because the United Nations regarding China and Russia will never support any military action. And most importantly, again, as I mentioned in our opening discussion, we don't really know what we're going to do next. If this doesn't work, then what are we going to do? And we do take a danger here by hitting one of these spots that may have weapons of mass destruction. If we destroy it, you may have secondary effects of killing civilians, which we don't want to do either. So there's really no upside for us here, either economically or militarily at this point in time.
That is very, very interesting. Also, Ashmead, from a oil perspective, or just a shipping of goods perspective, Syria not an oil producer, certainly, but the entire region, the volatility, whether it's Egypt, whether it's Lebanon, Jordan, again, the impact on the Israelis, all of this volatility in the region could disrupt the shipping of oil. We're back at the Suez Canal and the discussion there. Is it on your radar right now or no?
Oh, certainly, Cheryl. I think the canal's a big one. That's controlled by Egypt, of course. Again, remind you that the backwardation's already increased. There's already about a $20 risk premium. If you look at crude for 2020, for example, it's under $80. So there's a lot built in there. I think the safest way from a trading perspective here is to buy the Brent and sell the WTI, because I think if there's a supply interruption, it's going to affect European deliveries, and it's going to affect the Brent market a good bit more than U.S., which has become much less dependent on imports.
You know, Tony, I want to take this last question to you, and it's something that we bring up a lot with you, I know, but it's the topic of Iran and all of this. There is a new leader in Iran, a new president. He may not be Ahmadinejad, but he's still, when it comes to the Israelis and the relationship with the Syrians, he's still kind of the same old regime that we had before.
There's approximately 50,000 Quds Force, which are Iranian forces in Syria. So there's no way we're going to do something against Syria and not have the Iranians look at what we're doing and take it personally. So we have to consider, again, the Iranian aspect of this. There's a new president. We don't know how he's going to react to this. But again, you know, poking the Syrians without a clear understanding of what we want to accomplish or what the next steps will be if they don't listen, we do take on the danger of not only upsetting the Russians to some degree because of the base there. The Iranians are going to be clearly involved in some aspect of this. So again, we have secondary and third order effects that I don't think we fully thought through. So I don't know if I cannot recommend military action at this point in time based on all the variables that we just don't know.
Unfortunately, that red line may have already been crossed. Thank you, gentlemen. Retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer. Tony, it's good to see you. And, of course, Greenhaven Group President Ashby Pringle. Gentlemen, thank you very much.